Managing a business. Welcome to week 6 of your capstone project. This week, we will discuss managing a business. We will look at working with contractors, understanding the LLC, and registering a business. Let's start off by talking about hiring contractors. There are many types of contractors you can hire. They include photographers, illustrators, web designers or coders, other graphic designers, and print people. First, the photographer. Remember, you're not buying a photograph, you're hiring a contractor to take photographs. Make it clear you expect all photos and negatives or originals will belong to you. You'll have full usage rights. Never agree to only purchase the photos you want. You should receive a disc of all the photos taken, though it is normal to expect some editing and for the photographer to remove poor quality or duplicate images. It is reasonable for the photographer to keep copies of the photos to use in their portfolio, etc., but under no circumstances should the photographer retain full rights and expect you to ask them for permission to use the image. You can ask to see samples of the photographer's work. Know if you think that you'll do a good job before you agree to hire them. Also, ask for references so you can talk to current and past clients of the designer. Create a shot list, a list of specific goals and or pictures you want before even contacting a photographer. This will help you articulate what you're looking for. Think through what type of photographer or photography you are looking for. A photographer who uses natural light and has a journalistic style will give you very different photos than someone who takes studio lit portraits. The illustrator. Remember that you are purchasing the illustrations from the designer. Make it clear you expect that all the illustrations belong to you, full usage rights, just like we discussed in the previous slide for the photographs. Some illustrators will want to reserve the rights to the artwork for future use. This is up to you. Regardless, place all conditions in the contract. There are also web designers and coders you might be hiring. Web designers usually will want an hourly fee. However, you can determine with them what is appropriate, hourly or a flat rate. Be very specific as what you want them to do. Ask to be involved with all the decision making and see the progression of the work along the way. Make it clear that you or your client will retain the right to the work, not the web designer. Agree on terms for future changes and updates to their work. What about other graphic designers? When dealing with your overall expectations, explain the project as clearly as possible. Cover the budget you have to spend on the project. This may nullify the remaining bullet points. Mention how many revisions the designer will complete. Revision and concepting are not the same. You should expect some concepting in the beginning, and the concepting process should not count as a revision. Discuss what is outside the scope of the estimate. Determine who will handle the print coordination and who will do the press check, and go over the importance of deadlines. Get at least one estimate. Up to 3 estimates is ideal for your project. Also, ask to see examples and samples of the designer's work. Ask for references so you can talk to current or past clients of the designer. Share examples of work you like so there's no assuming you're on the same page. These are things you should share with your contractor. What is the goal of your project? What action do you want people to take after viewing your piece? Who is your audience? What are the needs and wants to know, or what do they already know? What are your main messages and talking points? When is the project needed? What is the quantity? And who needs to approve the project? Now, how do you charge for contract work? You can either add the contractor fees into your overall cost or have the contractor bill the client directly. Here's the pros: opportunity to control the markup and make more money. Only one point of contact, you won't have to worry about cross communication, and you can control the process. The cons: if the client walks away from the job, you can end up having to pay the bill for the contractor. The client and the contractor will begin to communicate and possibly lead to complications in project management. That could be a big problem. And the final con is the potential for the contractor to steal your client. Here's an example of a sample contract with an illustrator. You could find these type of contracts by doing a Google search, and there's also books you can purchase. Here's another example. You'll also need to work with printers. Make sure to get at least one estimate. Up to 3 estimates is ideal for your project. Ask to see samples of their work. Ask for references so you can talk to current and past clients. Ensure your deadlines can be met. Look through paper samples and be sure they have the type of paper you need to use. We recommend using recycled paper whenever possible. And find out when and how the printer handles press check. Now let's discuss the LLC. It's important that you understand your business options. One of those options is the LLC, or limited liability company. An LLC is a business entity formed upon filing articles of organization with your state and paying all fees. LLCs provide the limited liability to their members and are taxed like a partnership, preventing double taxation. And these can be formed in every state. It's important to know the difference between a sole proprietor and a limited liability corporation. One of the most important differences between the two is taxation. As a sole proprietor, you are the business and therefore solely responsible. As an LLC, you have more protection and less liability. Each state has different rules about forming LLCs, so you'll have to see what your state laws are. So let's discuss an LLC in more detail. It's a type of business ownership combining several features of corporation and partnership structures. And it's not a corporation or a partnership. It may be called a limited liability corporation. The correct terminology is limited liability company. The owners are called members, not partners or shareholders. The number of members are unlimited and may be individuals, corporations, or other LLC. What are the advantages of a limited liability company? Owners of a LLC have the limited liability protection, have liability protection of a corporation. A LLC as a separate entity, much like a corporation. Members cannot be held personally liable for debts unless they have signed a personal guarantee. There is a flexible profit distribution. Limited liability companies can select varying forms of distribution of profits. Unlike a common partnership where the split is 50-50, LLCs have much more flexibility. Now, what are the disadvantages of an LLC? You have a limited life. Corporations can live forever, whereas an LLC is dissolved when a member dies or undergoes bankruptcy. What about going public? Business owners with plans to take their company public or issuing employee shares in the future may be best served by choosing a corporate business structure. There is added complexity. Running a sole proprietorship or partnership will have less paperwork and complexity. An LLC may federally be classified as a sole proprietorship, partnership, or corporation for tax purposes. Classification can be selected or a default may apply. You do not have to keep minutes. Corporations are required to keep formal minutes, have meetings, and record resolutions. The LLC business structure requires no corporate minutes or resolutions and is easier to operate. You also have flow-through taxation. All your business losses, profits, and expenses flow through the company to the individual members. You avoid the double taxation of paying corporate tax and individual tax. Generally, this will be a tax advantage, but circumstances can favor a corporate tax structure. There's also another option. There's also a limited liability partnership, or LLP. An LLP is similar to a general partnership. However, in an LLP, each partner is not liable for the actions of other partners. If one partner dies, the LLP automatically ceases. There are many forms or partnerships that can be formed. Registering a business. This is key to maintaining a successful business and establishing yourself as a valid professional. If you decide to create a corporation, a nonprofit, a limited liability company, or a partnership, limited or limited liability, you will have to register your business and file certain documents with your state government. If your business is a sole proprietorship, you do not need to register your business with the state. However, many states require a sole proprietor to use their own name for the business name unless they formally file another name as a trade name or a fictitious name. Here are the steps to registering a business. First, determine the legal structure. Next, register your business name. You want to get a federal tax ID number. And remember to register with your state revenue service and obtain any licenses or permits as needed. How to go about determining the legal structure. This step involves organizing your business as a legal entity. Remember, you have several legal options. Consider the level of control you have or that you want to have, your business's vulnerability to lawsuits, and financing needs. The legal structure you choose will determine further registration requirements. Once you choose a legal structure, you may have to file registration forms with your state and or your local government. The requirements vary state to state. To help you determine your legal structure, you can visit the Business Incorporation website, and here's the link. You can learn here about choosing a legal structure. When registering your business name, by default, the legal name of a business is the name of the person or entity that owns the business. If you are the sole owner of the business, its legal name is your full name. If your business is a partnership, the legal name is the name given in your partnership agreement or the last names of the partners. For limited liability corporations, LLCs, and companies, the business's legal name is the one that was registered with the state government. Your business's legal name is required on all government forms and applications, including your application for employer tax IDs, licenses, and permits. If you want to open up a shop or sell your products under a different name, then you have to file an assumed name registration form with your state and or local government. Visit this website for more information. How to obtain a federal tax ID. Well, employers with employees, business partnerships and corporations, and other type of organizations must obtain an employer identification number, EIN number, from the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. The EIN is also known as an Employer Tax ID and Form SS4. You can call the U.S. Internal Revenue Service at this number. You also need to register with your state revenue agency. Just as you must have a federal tax ID, you will also need to obtain tax IDs and permits from your state's revenue agency. If you plan to sell your products and you are required to collect sales taxes, you will likely need to obtain a sales tax permit or vendor's license from your state or local government, or both. Here's a website for you to go to for specific tax information based on your state. What about obtaining licenses and permits? Most businesses are required to obtain some type of business license or permit to legally operate. The vast majority of small businesses will need to obtain a general business license or industry-specific operating permits from state and local government agencies. Go to this website listed here for more information on license and permits by state. Here's an important question. Do you have to register your name? Well, in most cases, the answer is yes. The only exception to this is in provinces is if you operate your business under your own legal name with no additions. For example, if you run your business under the name Susan Ward, you have to register the business name. However, if the business is going to be a sole proprietorship, you can't add anything to the name such as Inc. or Co. or and Partners. Nor can you add anything that would give potential customers or clients a clue about what I do. For example, if you decide to call the business Student Ward's Consulting Services, you have to register the business name even though it's still running as a sole proprietorship. This concludes this week's presentation, and the focus was discussing managing a business. We also looked at working with contractors, understanding the LLC, and registering a business.